Forcing us to attend a meeting on vacation? Fine, see you at midnight, by user Lukoy. Today's story comes from the world of education, where teachers are burnt out, overworked, and underpaid. Due to an influx in federal funding due to COVID stimulus money, our district decided to put that money to good use. Did they give much needed raises? Hire more aides? Update our 60-year-old building? No, even better. They hired several educational consultants to coach us on how to do our jobs. This alone was very insulting to most teachers, many of whom had been teaching longer than some of the consultants had been alive. Thankfully, many of the new consultants didn't really impact our day-to-day work, but there is one who is particularly difficult. I'll call her the Panther for reasons known only to me and a couple of colleagues, but it's a nickname she comes by honestly. The Panther continually adds to our workload, insults teachers with snide remarks, and talks down to the staff. At one point it got so unbearable that the most experienced teacher in our department simply got up from a meeting, told the principal to get a sub, and drove away. One of the biggest issues has been a sharp spike in unneeded meetings as consultants work to justify their contract. We meet to discuss data, testing, plan units, or do everyone's favorite, team building activities. However, all is finally looking up. As every teacher knows, we are nearing the most wonderful time of year, Christmas break. We will get 2 glorious weeks of not being harassed by students or administrators. Enter the Panther. We received an email at the end of last week from our consultant telling us we needed to have a meeting over Christmas break to plan Unit 4. She told us we could pick the day and time and then send her the Zoom link and she would join to lead it. Needless to say, the department was very unhappy. We had already planned the unit anyway, but the Panther said she needed to be involved in any planning and insisted the meeting was necessary. Finally, my department head had had enough. She planned the meeting as instructed and sent us all the link for the Zoom session. The meeting was planned for 11 p.m. on December 24th. We all instantly accepted the meeting time and confirmed that we would attend. For some reason the Panther wasn't happy with the meeting time. She pushed back, griped to an assistant principal, who backed us, and tried to get us to change, but she got the same answer everywhere: you told them to schedule a meeting, so either attend or cancel. She cancelled. Our consultant tried to force us to meet during our vacation. We planned the meeting for 11 p.m. on Christmas Eve. The meeting was cancelled. I kept getting written up for my hairstyle, so I cut all my hair off, by user Sky Yagud. When I was in the fire academy, the women's dress code said that hair had to be worn in a neat bun. I had layered, shoulder-length hair, so it was difficult to keep it up neatly all day long. The shorter pieces would stick out of the bun, or fall out around my face, and my bangs weren't long enough to pin back without using an entire bottle of hairspray. Most of my instructors were understanding, and said that as long as my hair was up and my mask could seal to my face, they would consider me to be in dress code. But there was one instructor who said there was no excuse. We're a paramilitary type school, so dress code is extremely important. She acknowledged that it wasn't a safety issue, but told me I had to follow it anyway, and that doing my best wasn't good enough. She wrote me up 3 times, and then called me in for a meeting to inform me that another write-up for the same issue would get me expelled from the program. I looked into the dress code and saw that the men's hair code was much more lenient. It just said that hair must not touch the collar of the shirt or the tops of the ears. So the night after that meeting I went to a hair place and told the stylist to do whatever she wanted to my hair as long as it fit those requirements. She was stoked and gave me a really cute pixie cut. The next day the same instructor tried to write me up, but since I was technically in dress code she couldn't. The next semester there was a man with long hair who wore it in a bun instead of cutting it, and the following semester the dress code was rewritten to be gender neutral. Ex-wife wants to itemize and split the cost of everything, by user Dunang. So my ex-wife and I used to have a great relationship. But she has become petty and somewhat vindictive these last couple months. Our relationship started going downhill after her daughter, my ex-stepdaughter, broke into my house and stole from me and my new wife while we were on vacation together. Yes, I invited my ex-wife and her boyfriend to come on vacation with us so it would be a family thing. My current wife was completely fine with it. Not only did we invite them, we paid for everything: plane tickets, rental house, meals, activities, etc. We've done this before and it was nice. While we were on this vacation, my ex-wife's daughter broke into our house and stole from us. We had to file a police report because some of the things stolen was medication and we couldn't get new prescriptions without filing a police report. This upset my ex-wife even though we told her before we called the police and she said, "Do what you need to do." Before this, my ex and I would pretty much just buy what the kids needed while we had them. Every once in a while she'd ask me to split the cost of some things and I would. I have never asked her to split the cost of anything prior to this. But lately she has been asking to split the cost of just about everything. Fine, whatever. I usually get most of the things for the kids anyway. About a month ago my son needed some equipment for indoor lax. She asked if I would split. I said fine. When she took him out shopping they couldn't find everything. So I bought most of it online. I asked her what she bought and how much and I told her what I bought and how much. It turned out she owed me for the split. It was only $40, I would have let it go but she hounded me for a week over $5. This pissed her off. She'd be fine when I have to pay her but gets pissed when she has to pay me. I only asked her for the portion of the split because she asked me to split the cost in the first place. We argued back and forth and then she came up with a list of things we should not have to split and anything else we would split. So I started keep track of things that I paid for that were to be split between us. So she gave me her list and what I owe her, not a lot, I owe her $80. But when I gave her my list and her share, she now owes me $425. We won't talk to anyone except for the name on the account, by user throw08no. This took place about 15 years ago and involved a large corporate banking entity. I forget the name of it, but for the sake of this story, let's call it Fells Wargo. It may not truly be MC. It took some creative thinking outside the box prompted by their own phrasing. You be the judge. There are some important parts that come into play. My spouse and I were young and dumb financially. We both had bounced a few checks on our own checking accounts. They were closed a few years prior. Fells Wargo offered a way to rehab your checking account history. They offered you the opportunity to pay them an additional $10/month to have the right to have a checking account. They restricted the release of funds and made life difficult to even have a checking account, but if you played by their rules you could graduate to a traditional checking account after a year. I participated in the opportunity checking and graduated my account. My spouse had lived without a checking account for a few years and wanted to try again. I took my spouse to Fells Wargo. We specifically explained their previous history, and specifically asked for the shitty checking rebuilding account. We knew my spouse needed to start at the bottom. The manager of the branch enters the basic information and declared there was no need for the rehab checking account. They qualified for the regular account. We asked again to be absolutely sure. Yes. No rehab needed. Here's some starter checks. Your ATM card will be in the mail in a week. Gladly took an initial cash deposit of $500. Fast forward a week. We get the ATM card. Call to activate it. Your account has been closed. Why? We determined you have bad checking history previously. We go round and round about how we covered this, disclosed it up front and asked for the checking rehab account. You will have to go back and open that account if you want it. We can't change the account. So, they're closing the account. Because we needed to have the rehab checking account. The one we specifically asked for and they refused. Facepalm. My spouse didn't know what to say so we got on speakerphone. I started asking questions. So, will you pay the outstanding checks and refund the rest? No. We won't pay any checks. You'll be charged for returned checks from your merchants. My spouse wrote 3 checks totaling less than $100. Very few places accepted starter checks. They have the funds in the closed account to pay them. Where is the issue? We don't do that. At this point they became flustered. Nobody seems to ever have the funds or the audacity to demand them to pay checks written in good faith. They had no answers on how they refused the checking account we requested and would have been okay to have. They didn't think they had a responsibility to notify us the account was closed. And how dare we challenge their policy? They didn't like how I kept pointing out how there wasn't a single thing we did wrong, but they think they are not responsible for returned check fees. So they decided to not talk to me any longer. They hung up. We call back. Repeat. Finally they offer this gem. We won't talk to anyone except the name on the account. Click. Their only possible choice to avoid a difficult discussion where they own their mistakes was clinging to not letting someone else ask questions with the account holder's permission. They even refused to let me tell my spouse what to ask and respond to my spouse directly. Can only talk to the name on the account? Okay. So I called back. Miraculously, in 60 seconds, I now identified as a different person. Thanks for calling Fells Wargo. May I have your name? Spouse's name. Long pause. You aren't spouse's name? Sure I am. Ask me anything. Name. SSN. Address. Mother's maiden name. Dob. Verified it all as the name on the account. Long pause. No. You aren't spouse. Why do you say that? Because you're a man. Wait a minute. That's why you closed my account? Because I'm a man? I'm pretty sure that's against ECOA, maybe Reg B, law stating discrimination on gender is illegal. Banks can't reference gender or other protected classes to close accounts. Please hold. A manager finally comes on. We have a little back and forth about who I identify as. But seeing how I'm not doing anything except demanding they pay checks on my spouse's account, written by my spouse, with funds in their possession, there isn't much they can fight. But they finally agree to pay the 3 checks from the funds in the account. They didn't want to. Even in the end, but the name on the account demanded it. Fallout? They had to do the right thing after wasting hours fighting it. You want to follow the lease to the letter of the law? Let's Dance, by user Lee10021. So, about 10 years ago my husband and I were renting a house while we tried to buy a place. The landlord seemed so nice, and it was a great situation. When we found a place to buy, we gave him our forwarding information along with the keys. It took about 2 months to get our deposit back, and we were shocked to say the least. He had taken $400 out. He had an enclosed porch that had screens with no glass. It had outdoor carpeting that was gross, and we bought a remnant to cover the carpet since we had little kids and it was questionable, no doubt due to the year-round screens, including rainstorms, etc. It wasn't ideal, but it was a rental. When we left, we rolled up the carpet and threw it out. Anyway, the landlord stated in his letter that he was taking out the $400 because we had broken the lease by having a dog, and his proof was the condition of that carpet. We did not have a dog, and that carpet was gross when we got there. We tried to explain that, but he was having none of it and would ignore our attempts to reach out. Plus, how do you prove the absence of something? Cue malicious compliance. You want to follow the lease so carefully as to make up animals? Well, perhaps you should read the laws a little better. According to our state, landlords have exactly 1 month to send the deposit back. He took 2. According to the law, you can be held liable for 3 times the amount, $1,800, in our case. So we sued. We no longer wanted the $400 back, we wanted $5,400. While it was somewhat painful, he dodged attempts to serve him, he had out-of-state attorney friends try to intimidate us, he eventually had to hire an attorney, and we settled on $2,000, in addition to the $1,400 we got back. We filed with the help of a friend so we didn't owe an attorney, just filing fees. He ended up paying $2,000 plus attorney fees instead of our $400 for a phantom dog. Know your rights as tenants.